So, Siklu and the E-band revolution, and why E-band is the future for wireless networks. My name is Ted de Boer, and I'm the product manager at Mero for our carrier wireless portfolio. And I'll be telling you a little bit today about E-band in itself, because there's still a lot of things that are unclear about it, and how does it work, and what are your distances, your capacities, how do you register a link, is it fully licensed, what is light licensed, all that good stuff. Then I'll be chatting a little bit about the newest releases from Siklu and what type of products Mero offers in the Siklu portfolio as well, specifically with regards to E-band. But yeah, let's first get started and let's chat a bit about Mero. Right, so our slogan is empowering you to connect communities, which is what we strive to do at all times. A little bit about Mero for those of you who are new to Mero or haven't heard from us before and maybe came across this webinar on a different level. Mero has been in the industry for over 17 years now, which means we know what we're doing. We have been doing it for a while. We are a member of the Udaco group, level 4 BEE at this point in time. We currently sell to 35 countries and we've got 5 branches. So we have the branch in Centurion, Samrand. Then there's one in Durban, Nelspruit, and Cape Town, and we can ship to any of those branches, so whichever one is nearest to you. And then also there's a Udaco East Africa in Kenya, which we are also very closely related to. So what you want to buy from us, you can also get that side. We have over 170 staff members, 2,500 items in the sales catalog, and over 95% of those items get shipped on the same day. We ship one new product every 12 seconds, and over 640,000 items were shipped in 2019. Right, so why would you choose and pick Mero as a value-added distributor over everybody else? Right, so Mero prides itself in making, helping you with tailor-made solutions, which means that we help you from day one, right? So we offer an end-to-end solution that includes not only the product, not only a box, but also, we educate you, we train you on how to use it. We've recently launched Mero Academy. If you want to know more about that, please pop me a mail afterwards. Very nice way to get your teams educated. And then we help you also with the planning, with the implementation and management. We have technical support. If something might go wrong, we help with the RMAs and the replacement units, and all that sort of good stuff. So yeah, Mero supplies a tailor-made solution that is made for your requirements, specifically end to end. So everything that you might need, from the nitty-gritty details to a tower mast. We are there to provide it to you. Having said that, we supply thus a complete solution. We offer products in the ranges from Wi-Fi to outdoor broadband. We have mobile solutions from the likes of Radwin, for example, Fiber in Motion, as well as some Teltonica mobile LTE routers and Nicotic as well. Coming to the LTE side of things, infrastructure in terms of cabinets and lattice masts, VoIP, of course, telephony, anywhere from a PBX to this actual IP video talk system that we're using at this point in time, is also something that you can use. So if you like the way it works and it works well today, please feel free to let me know about it, and then we can hook you up. Of course, the security side of things are very prevalent in this day and age now with COVID-19 and the no-touch sort of entry systems that we now also supply, as well as infrared scanning and monitoring of temperatures. The networking side of things, so anywhere from your desktop TP-Link router or TP-Link switch to your high-end edge core networking routers, we also supply. Then on the fiber side of things, we have both active and PON solutions from BDCom and Ubiquity. And then, of course, last but not least, the Internet of Things is something we are moving into now as well, with the likes of Ubiquity, Nicotic, and Teltonica. Right, on the support side of things, our reputation and market edge is built around strong technical support and outstanding customer service. So Mero has its own technical support of well-educated, on-point technical staff. that can help you whenever you are stuck in, say, for example, community forums are not working out, or you need just a little bit of extra help. Then, of course, we also help with pre-sales planning, so link planning, heat maps for Wi-Fi rollouts, that sort of good stuff. And we also now offer on-site assistance. So if you have such a query where you need somebody to come to site and help you out, please pop a mail to support@miro.co.za for more information. With regards to legal compliance, of course, Miro goes out of its own way to make sure that all the type approvals in NRCS letters of authority are in place, so that you have a legal product that's within the boundaries of the South African law that you can use legally and deliver a service with. Then on the financing side of things, Miro offers 7 to 30 days terms accounts, run rate terms accounts for your month-to-month purchases. And then, of course, we also have an in-house structure called IPFin, which is mainly used for larger projects, which you can then either pay off yourself, or you can transfer those costs, those monthly costs, to the end user of the project. That can be anywhere from 3 to 36 months as well. On the training side of things, if you have a particular training requirement, you can pop a mail to training@miro.co.za. Of course, we have a whole lot of introductory courses called Zero to Hero, all of which are now available on our online platform, Miro Academy. Again, if you want to know more about that, please let me know, and we'll get you in contact with the right people. Let me just take a sip of water there. Right, just want to see if everything's going fine thus far. Everybody can hear me. I don't see any complaints in the chat, so I'm assuming everything is 100%. Right, next slide. So, Siklu, the E-band revolution agenda today. I'm going to chat about what is E-band and why is it so great. I'll tell you a little bit about Siklu themselves. What are the advantages of using Siklu in particular for E-band? And then I'll discuss a bit about the Siklu portfolio in detail that we sell at Miro. And then I've got a couple of cool use cases and examples, in particular from South Africa. So these are projects that I myself have worked upon. Normally with webinars, you get a ton of use cases in scenarios and those sort of things that are from other parts of the world that are not relevant at all. Too much of it might get a bit boring. So I just got a couple, and I'll show you them at the end. And of course, then we'll have some time for Q&A as well. Right. So what is E-band? So there is something called the millimeter wave spectrum, which is anywhere from 30 gigahertz up towards 300 gigahertz, although this graph on the right-hand side doesn't really show that exactly. There it says traditional microwave bands go up to 40 gigahertz, so that's what we're used to with licensed point-to-point. Millimeter wave bands typically, usably, only start from 60 gigahertz up towards 90 gigahertz. And a big part of that, from between 60 and 100, is called the E-band, and a sub-part of that on 60 gigahertz is called the V-band, as you can see. So for South Africa and the world in particular, E-band uses 71 to 76 gigahertz, plus combined with 81 to 86 gigahertz. Now this can be used in either a TDD or a FDD fashion, meaning time division duplexing or frequency division duplexing. The Siklu radios that we sell currently are frequency division duplexing. So the capacity that you'll see is that capacity in both directions. So it's 1 gig up, 1 gig down. This also helps with the lower latency, of course, when using frequency division duplexing. So in effect, this translates to 18 channels of 250 megahertz that are usable for this in particular. E-band, and in South Africa, they are split between Block A and Block B. Now, Block A is light licensed and Block B is fully licensed, which means you have to apply for a license with ICASA and so on and so forth. With Block A, which sits behind Block B for some reason, 73 to 76, 83 to 86, you are able to deploy your link, and then you have 30 days to fill out a form and send it to ICASA in order to register. And then ICASA will send you an invoice for that, but it's sort of on a first come, first serve type of basis. So yeah, there's a difference between light licensed and fully licensed. If you are in light license and your project requires you to have a fully licensed link, you can always, deploy the link and then apply for a fully licensed link, and then you can move your Siklu radio over to the licensed part of that spectrum. As of current, a channel in South Africa on E-band costs you 154 Rand per year. So you're looking at 308 bucks for a 1 gig or 2 gig link, which makes it extremely cheap. This brings us to the advantages of E-band and why it's so great. First off, of course, the extreme capacity. So unless you've got a license link with a 4+4 configuration or even more, which is a very costly matter, you'll be limited typically on a licensed microwave link to about maximum a gigabit worth of capacity. Whereas with E-band, currently the fastest link that we sell sits at 10 gigabits per second in both directions, which is insane capacity pretty much for every WISP out there at this point in time. But soon to be, Siklu will be launching 20 and even 40 gig links as well. So the scalability is pretty insane. Again, which I mentioned earlier, the licensing is super low cost. So 1 gig and a 2 gig Siklu that use 2 channels each, the one has a little bit higher modulation, will cost you just 300 bucks per annum. Whereas, if I'm not mistaken, an 11 gigahertz license link in metro areas will rock you anywhere between 20 and 25,000 Rand per year. So that's kind of a massive difference. And switching to E-band, keeping the distances under which they need to be, will definitely have you take the link and pay for itself, really. But that's in certain cases. And then the most important thing, I think, is that there's zero chance of interference. So it being millimeter wave, E-band, and especially Siklu links, especially with 2-feet antennas, you're looking at sort of you must think about a laser pointer. That's how thin the signal is. So you're looking at about 0.5 degrees, which is very, very little. And this translates into you being able to use that same channel again every 3 degrees of horizontal separation. Now, if you think about that, and the fact that there are 18 channels, you need 2 of those to reach a gig or 2 gigs. So say you have a 1 gig radio, uses 2 channels. If you have 9 channels then available, 9 sets of 2, it means you have 9 radios that can go into one direction. But the fact that you are able to use those same channels again within 3 degrees of separation means that you can do it 120 times across a high site. So effectively, using both polarizations, you're looking at almost 2,000 radios on one high site without ever interfering with each other. This means that the scalability is literally limitless. Right. That's one of the most amazing things. The immediate rollout, of course, everybody knows that you're at least waiting 6 to 8 weeks before you get a license link allocated to you, or a part of the spectrum allocated to you by ICASA. That's if there's no backlog. Whereas with E-band, you can roll out immediately. You can register yourself. It's no waiting time involved. Miro always has stock on hand, or pretty much always. And that means if you have a requirement of a high capacity link and you need to roll out immediately, then E-band is the way to go. The fact that it's millimeter wave and that the signal is about as thick as a laser beam, effectively, means that it's extremely secure, right? So with 5 gigahertz, for example, you have a fairly large Fresnel zone, and if you have a radio that can pick up that 5 gig signal, it is pretty prone to being hacked. Now, with E-band, the signal is so thin, as I said here at the bottom, there's a negligible Fresnel zone. This has other advantages as well, which I'll get to. But the fact that it's so thin of a signal means that you literally have to have another Siklu radio and go sit in front of the other radio on the other side, which immediately triggers a notification that the link is down, meaning that if anybody ever would be able to, go sit in front of it, you would be notified immediately. And everybody knows that E-band alignment is initially fairly difficult. So, in order to pick up that signal, you'd have to be fairly advanced in your hacking skills, but highly unlikely. Again, the extreme co-location I already touched upon with regards to the zero chances of interference. So you can put a hell of a lot of radios on a high site and avoid any sort of chance of them interfering with each other, just because of the fact that you have so many channels available, 2 polarizations available, and over and above that fact, the signal is so small that the chances of you crossing another signal that's on the same channel and same pole is highly unlikely. Then lastly, the negligible Fresnel zone also means that you can shoot over objects that are in the sense reflective, meaning, for example, you could shoot this over a bay without touching the water and without suffering from signal deterioration because of it, which is not something you can do with other frequencies likely because of the reflectiveness of the water. And then next up, just a little bit of a comparison from Siklu themselves. I've taken this slide from one of their presentations to give you an idea of how millimeter wave wireless stacks up against the other sort of options that you might have. So on the fiber side of things, of course, it's very secure. You can't hack into it really easily from the outside unless you connect it into that network somehow. Of course, the capacity is there, but fiber can be fairly expensive. It has a very low latency, which is good. It's very reliable as well, but fiber takes planning. So, the need to roll out and to dig trenches, or even if it's aerial fiber, you do need to plan ahead. With regards to legacy 5 gigahertz wireless, it says easily hacked, although I haven't seen a lot of cases in that case, but yeah, it is prone to hacking more than millimeter wave would be. The capacity is, of course, limited. We're seeing higher capacity base stations and CPEs up to about 500 megabits now, but it's still no competition for 10 gig point-to-point links, or even 1 gig symmetrical point-to-multipoint on 60 gig point-to-multipoint V-band. Of course, the cost is very low, which is an advantage, but there's higher than average latency and, of course, the chance of interference. But you have a very fast time to market. Then looking at mobile 5G, which is not that prevalent in South Africa as yet, but it says to be very secure, also multi-gigabit capacity, but of course there's very high cost involved in terms of the equipment and everything else that's involved there. Latency is low, very little interference at this point in time, but the time to market will take time because it has to be adapted by a lot of other companies and networks as well. And then on the right-hand side of things, everything in green, everything is good, very secure, multi-gigabit capacity. It's affordable in the sense of the capacity that you get out of it. Very low latency. So with Siklu, typically you're seeing around about 0.4 milliseconds of latency on a round trip, which is actually faster than fiber. It's reliable and it's immune to interference. And of course, with E-band, there's a very fast time to market. So a little bit about the E-band limitations, because always when you have a conversation with somebody, or for example me and a WISP, there's always a couple of things that come to the surface. Of course, line of sight is a necessity. So trees or anything like that are very detrimental, and you can't go through them whatsoever. So you need full LOS, full line of sight. And longer links can be difficult to align. Then, of course, there's rain fade, and you need to have very stable mounting points. So if you put it on top of a very high tower that's not properly guided, and you have sway or torsion on those high sites, that might prove to be an issue in due course. But we have some solutions as well. So From Miro, you can buy a Siklu scope kit. If you plan to deploy a good couple of links, it's definitely worth an investment. We're talking, I think it's a Nikon proper hunting rifle scope. So you can buy the bracket by itself as well and put on your own scope if you want to. If you need details on that, please talk to me later. In order to circumvene the rain fade, though, you should limit your distance always, or especially in South Africa, to about 4 kilometers. Or what you can do is opt for extend millimeter with or without dual band dishes. And I'll explain a little bit more about this in the next slide. And of course, appropriate planning in advance. So planning you can do on lbc.siklu.com. It's free of charge. You can register there. The planning is based upon the last 50 years worth of range statistics. So for a piece of equipment to qualify as carrier grade, it needs to adhere to the 5 nines of availability standard. And that goes for both the radio performance as well as the physical equipment performance. Now, Siklu has a mean time between failure of in excess of 70 years, so you can be assured that the equipment will be reliable. And then on the other end, you need to plan and check how the RF performance is going to be. Now, this you can do with the Siklu Planner, and this uses the last 50 years worth of range statistics. And because it's 50 years, it's a lot of statistics, which means that the availability that you plan for will be what you get almost 100% of the time. So in that sense, you will see good uptimes of about 99.95% on links up to 4 kilometers. And if you go beyond that, which the Siklus can do, then we advise you to use extend millimeter, either with a secondary link on another frequency or on 5 gig with Siklu's own dual band dish. Right. So for long distance links in alignment, you need the scope kit, or it's preferred to use that. I've seen links being aligned at 15Ks without one, so it is possible. In fact, depends on if you've got an eye for it. And then the link distance with regards to rain fade should be either limited, or you should have a secondary link in place if you are pushing the limits. And of course, always plan a link in advance. Make sure that you know what you're getting before you put it in the field. Right, then I'll chat a little bit about the extend millimeter and dual band dish, which I spoke about. So extend millimeter is a feature license on all of the Siklu radios that allows you to set a capacity threshold on the radio itself. And that threshold, when it surpasses that threshold, so the link deteriorates, there's rain, for example, then the Siklu will pass the high quality of service prioritized packets over to a secondary link. Now, in the past, this could only be a full secondary link, as in a separate set of dishes on a different frequency, whether it be 11 or 17 gig or 5 gig. But now, Siklu has also started selling a dual band dish, which we have in stock as well. So this is available on the 1200 FX 25 and the 8010, which means there's a secondary feed within the dish itself, and it has 2 RP-SMA connectors. So if you look at the right-hand side of the slide, there's a ubiquity there attached to the back of it. You will get this bracket with, and this radio, the ubiquity then will hook up directly to the Siklu, and should it go down or should it reduce traffic below the threshold that you set, and it will start passing traffic over to the secondary link. Most people will say, yeah, but I'm trying to move away from 5 gigahertz on my backhaul. Yes, I understand that, but this is a very cost-effective way to bypass not having to have a fully licensed or a very expensive secondary link for that 1% of the time in a year that you might not have full capacity on your E-band link. So in that sense, to pay a whole lot of money for that 1% of the year, you have to weigh that up, the relevance of it. But yeah, in that sense, the Siklu will take care of 99% of the year, whereas the secondary link will take care of 1% of the year, equals almost 100% uptime. We're not taking into account, obviously, failures of equipment, but those should also not happen when it comes to Siklu. Right, in that sense, when you're looking at distances, using extend millimeter, you can easily reach 10 gigabits per second at 10 kilometers. And I'll show you some proof of that at a later stage with those case studies that have happened here in South Africa. And then theoretically speaking, the 2 gigabits per second should be achievable up until about 20 Ks. We've seen other records being broken, 22 and 26 Ks in Australia, but 20 Ks is a good distance to do with the 2 gigabit radio. As I said earlier, this is a much lower cost way to extend your E-band links rather than having a fully licensed secondary link. But if you have already got that in place, then it's very easy to just put on the license, put up the Siklu, have 10 gig or 2 gig 99% of the time, and then your secondary license link can take care of the rest. Of course, also, if you do opt for the 5 gig failover and a single dish, it's a single dish, meaning less space on your tower, less wind load, and less costs involved. And as a special for you guys today, if you are to buy a Siklu extended millimeter setup before the end of May, whichever one it is, you'll get one of the extended millimeter licenses for free. So it's buy one, get one free for the license, the extended millimeter license only. If you have a look here at the right bottom corner, so that's the standard operation on the left-hand side, and if there's a significant rain event, it will automatically fail over to a sub-6 gigahertz radio. So this is in case with a dual band dish. If you don't pick the dual band dish, you can still fail over to a completely secondary link. Right, so a little bit about Siklu. Excuse me. Their headquarters is in Israel. They've got 100 employees. They do a lot of the in-house development on millimeter wave and the silicon as well. And they've mastered the art of millimeter wave fixed wireless access with over 40 patents. They are used in over 250 smart cities, over 100,000 links deployed worldwide in 45 countries. They've got more than 50% market share in the US and the UK across the board of everything that is deployed, which I think definitely says something. Then we're getting to the advantages of using Siklu. Right, so as I said earlier, it's extremely reliable kit. It's carrier grade. It's made to last. These radios will most probably outlast our generation, if not hit by lightning. So very high MTBF, or mean time between failure, of in excess of 70 years. It might be more by now, I don't know. It's a field-proven product. As I said, there's over 100,000 links in the field. The kit is rock solid. You can ask for references. I've got a good couple of links in the field that I've worked on with some of our customers myself that are really pushing the boundaries in terms of distance. And you know, the South African climate is extremely harsh, so it's really being put to the test here. And I can definitely give you some references for that. Of course, the predictable performance. So as I said, the last 50 years worth of range statistics, you might ask, is there nothing else that will affect this? No, it won't. So oxygen absorption or other forms of deterioration of the signal do not affect E-band. It's only rain and physical objects, of course. The advantage also of using Siklu is the extend millimeter feature, meaning that you can do it on the same radio and pass it over to a 5 gig radio on the same dish even, or you can use any secondary link of your own choice, meaning that you're not stuck to a specific setup like a licensed built-in feature or something to that effect. The Siklu offers you much lower cost per gigabit per second. So if you're looking at a full 10 gig link, I'm not 100% sure what today's price is, but you're looking at less than 20,000 Rand per gigabit in both directions. Again, the extremely low latency, which is great if you have a couple of hops, connecting other towns. If you do that with 5 gigahertz equipment or otherwise, you keep adding on milliseconds, and even if it's 2 or 3, after 3 hops that becomes 9, and you start to notice it. The Siklu's average less than a millisecond in latency. They're very easy to install. So if you'd like, I can forward you some of the links, but you can also yourself go to the Siklu YouTube channel. All of the installation videos are there. Basically, all that you need, you don't even need a laptop. All that you need is a voltmeter and a PoE. and you literally plug the voltmeter prongs into the radio itself. It will give you readout minus 0 point something, which is then the actual RSSI reading that the radio is getting. And from there onwards, it's fairly easy to get it aligned if you know what you're doing. But I would advise you to attend the online e-learning courses from Siklu. So if you're a Siklu user, Siklu partner, or a Miro customer, and you aim to roll these out in the field, let me know. Then I'll get your internet email domain approved, and then you can start attending those trainings, which are free of charge. Of course, the high capacity, so up to 10 gigabits per second, both directions right now, with 20 gig and 40 gig coming fairly soon. It's very easy to install. I already mentioned that, and the free training, and of course, a local support from Miro as well. Then, last but not least, there are extended warranties and advanced replacement programs as well. So, advanced replacement meaning Siklu keeps a spare ODU on-prem for you in particular. In case Miro doesn't have stock, they can still ship within 48 hours, which is much faster than having to wait till stock becomes available. Right, now that we've done that, we'll quickly chat about the product portfolio from Siklu within Miro, and then I'll go over the case studies. And if you have any questions after that, please feel free to ask them. So first up, we've got the 1200 FX. FX side standing for full duplex. So 1 gig up, 1 gig down, less than a millisecond latency. And this radio can be used up to 8 to 9 kilometers with extend millimeters. So if you have an OSPF link in place, or a secondary link which it can fail over to, or something else to take care of that bandwidth that you lose when you're pushing a link far and there's rain fade involved, then you can push this radio up to 8 to 9 kilometers and still get the full capacity. If you're running standalone, you can push it up to 4 kilometers and still get an uptime of about 99.95% in a year, which translates to a couple of minutes downtime in total. This radio features PoE in as well as PoE out. PoE out in order to power the secondary radio, should you be using the failover feature, or if you'd like, you can run a camera off of it, should you want to. This radio has 7 dBm of TX power, and it can be bought with either 1 foot or 2 foot. Can be both single or dual band antennas. So we only typically stock the dual band 2 foot because single band, I don't feel there's a real point to it because you're trying to extend the distance. We also have half foot options available for very, very short links, should you want to, but those are order on demand. Then the 2500 FX, this is actually a picture from Cape Town from one of our clients. I thought it looked really, really cool, where you can see how the Siklu scope is being used in order to do alignment. If I'm not mistaken, this link is about 8.5 kilometers. So the 2500 FX features 2 gigabits full duplex capacity over the radio. For this, you will need to do lag aggregation on 2 cables and 2 ports. So there's 2 Ethernet cables, or 2 Ethernet ports copper and 2 Ethernet SFP. All of them are 1 gig, and you need to combine 2 of those in order to get the full capacity. So this one is the one you can push up to 20 kilometers with extend millimeter, and the world record currently, as far as I'm aware, is 22 kilometers. Again, this would be most ideal up to 4 to 5 Ks standalone without a failover. So if you're deploying it by itself and you don't have anything else in place, then 4 kilometers would be the maximum recommended distance. So this unit features straight DC in as well as PoE in, and then it also has PoE out over the 2 gigabit copper and SFP ports. 80.5 dBm of TX power, that's why it goes much further than the previous model that I mentioned. Again, you have 1 and 2 foot options available. We typically only sell it with a 2 foot, just because of the fact that this one is definitely made to do distance. And then last but not least, the big daddy of them all, the EtherHaul 8010 FX. This one goes up to 10 gigabits per second. What's nice about this radio is that you can buy it as a 2 gig and upgrade later. And if you do that, the capacity licenses give you a chance to fill up that 2 gigabits per second up until you can't no more and you're maxing out. And then you can upgrade from 2 to 5 and later from 5 to 10, or you can jump from 2 to 10 immediately, or you can buy 5 or 10 gig outright out of the box. It all depends. It's made to be more accommodating to one's wallet. Again, less than a millisecond latency. This one can go up to 10 kilometers with extend-MM and still get the maximum capacity. The current world record is here in South Africa in Rustenburg at 10.4 kilometers, which is amazing. But again, up to about 4 kilometers when it's being used standalone. So this unit has straight DC in, as well as PoE in and PoE out over the management port. It features one 10 gigabit copper and one SFP plus, as well as 1 gigabit copper for management. Again, 80.5 dBm TX power and 1 and 2 foot options available both in single and dual band. Right, we've come to almost the end of it. I always like to say I like to keep the presentations as short as possible because death by PowerPoint is never fun. But I thought I'd share these two use cases from South Africa, one in which is applicable to WISPs and the other one more in the industrial sector. First one of which is in Cape Town. You just saw the other side of this, but this is a very nice way to show you the difference between whether or not you're using the Siklu scope. So I highly recommend buying it, especially if you're deploying a good couple of these. But yeah, in the sense of the use cases, these radios are ideal for medium to long distance backhaul upgrades. So anywhere between 4 and 20 Ks, where you either have a 5 gig, 11 gig, 17, or something else in place, and you need that extra capacity, and you don't mind leaving that link in place. That's where you can put in one of these Siklus, especially the 2500 FX up to 20 Ks, and get 2 gigabits worth of capacity in both directions. Also, when there's no 5 gigahertz failover in place, so it's another frequency, or you have OSPF, so a link going in another direction that can take care of this traffic, then it's also highly recommended to put the Siklu in place for 99% uptime capacity, as long as you have something that can redirect the traffic. As you can see in this case, this one goes over, I'm not sure which bay it is, but over water. Even that particular house there that you can see in the scope doesn't affect the signal whatsoever because it's millimeter wave, which is absolutely great. And then, of course, new links for WISPs and link upgrades when it comes to short and medium range, so anywhere between under 4 kilometers. If you have a link that's under 4 kilometers, there's absolutely no reason why you should not upgrade to E-band, because the uptime is equal or better than whatever you have in place currently, and the license cost is definitely less and definitely worth it. So, and then last but not least, of course, upgrading or replacing existing 5, 11, and 17 gig kit. So you can leave those in place, or you can replace them entirely, maybe 23 gigahertz or 38 or 32. Short distance links, E-band has the same amount of uptime, but it's much cheaper to maintain. Right, so this is in the mining industry in South Africa, in Rustenburg. At the bottom of the link, you can see a CR17 gig, which is the failover link for the Siklu all the way there on top. And if you'll have a look, in the middle of the screenshot, it says link length, and that's 15.597 kilometers, or 15,500 meters. And this was at the first alignment, so the fine-tuning is yet to be done, but it's a good RSSI, and it's getting full capacity. If you can have a look there at the bottom, it says estimated throughput, 1930 Mbps per second in both directions. So in that case, 15 Ks is definitely possible. This is being done in South Africa, and this link thus far, last I heard, has had 100% uptime because of the 17 gig failover in place right there. Then another one from the same client, AVAX. They rolled out a couple of 10 gig links, which this one was the longest of. 10,361 meters or 10.4 Ks, which was unheard of before. And I mean, look at the RSSI, it's minus 40, minus 45. Really, really well done to these guys. And again, this is pushing the boundaries. This doesn't have a failover in place, but the downtime this year has been almost negligible. These guys do have fiber in the ground as well. So the Siklu actually features as a redundant link, but the downtime has been negligible. You can do the distance, full 10 gig capacity in both directions, which is really, really awesome. And yeah, this is just a showcase of what is possible. On the right-hand side, you'll see my post on LinkedIn. But yeah, this is it from my side, guys. Very much thank you for attending this webinar.